Hear these blessing words. They were written by Jan Richardson. She titled it Where the Breath Begins, and I have used that as the title of this sermon this morning. Dry and dry and dry in each direction. Dust dry, desert dry, bone dry. And here in your own heart, dry. The center of your chest, a bare valley stretching out everywhere you turn. You may need to do some crumbling, yes. That some things you have protected may want to be laid bare, yes. That you will be asked to let go and let go and let go, yes. But listen, this is what a desert is for. If you have come here desolate, if you have come here deflated, then thank your lucky stars the desert is where you have landed. Here where it is hard to hide. Here where it is unwise to rely on your own devices. Here where you will have to look and look again and look close to find what refreshment waits to reveal itself to you. I tell you, though it may be hard to see it now, this is where your greatest blessing will find you. I tell you, this is where you will receive your life again. I tell you, this is where the breath begins. This blessing that Richardson wrote was an invitation that she created a few years ago to the season of Lent, which in the Christian liturgical calendar begins this coming Wednesday, a time that I like to refer to as desert time. This is in reference to the story about the healer and prophetic revolutionary, Jesus, set against a backdrop of oppression, horrible violence, hatred, suspicion of the neighbor, authoritarianism, fascism. Sound familiar? Jesus had a different worldview, a different God, otherwise known as love. A belief in all beings deserving of this love. That is whom he kept company with. And he had a trust and faith in a movement powered by this love that could reorder everything and everyone. Now we must try to imagine, if we can, the energy, the feverish pitch and urgency his ministry would have demanded at that time. He had a massive following, and he had disciples and he had leaders to train up and supervise. And the only way to galvanize more people in this pressing movement, it wasn't by emails or social media, it was to walk from town to town, teaching and telling and convincing and appealing, knowing that every person that he was asking to join this love revolution and follow him, asking to put their faith in this radical, now new world view, and God was also being asked to risk their lives for it. His calendar, by the way, was also jam-packed with requests for healings, right alongside all those doubters lining up, demanding that he prove himself over and over and over and over again. His very name, the Messiah, translates to the anointed Savior of the world. I mean, no pressure, right? And at the height of all this, when everything lay right on the balance of like a razor's edge, he retreats into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights because the Spirit has driven him there, he says. Cancel my schedule, all the healings, all the workshops and speaking engagements, all the programming, all the meetings. I've been called to the desert. Now, the Bible, as you have heard me say again and again from this pulpit, it is meant to be read as a text of symbols and metaphor. I appreciate Father Richard Rohr's assessment, who writes that the Bible mirrors and charts our own human travail. It offers both mature and immature responses to almost everything. And landscape plays a huge role in the Bible and in this mirroring and charting. Deserts, mountains, and rivers are some of the most featured landscapes of this text. I think it's said that deserts are mentioned over 300 times in the Bible. These are places of revelation, places of healing, places of suffering. And they also mirror and chart our own natures and human travails. Hebrew Bible scholar John Levinson writes that geography is simply a visible form of theology. So let us consider the desert this morning. A dry and desolate place. A bare valley stretching out in every direction as far as the eye can see. A dangerous place, right? Beautiful, beautiful. But for us humans, our place at the top of the food chain shifts a little in the desert. So it's a humbling place. You must be very, very careful there. Very careful. Now, I have a very intimate relationship with deserts. Maybe some of you do too. Growing up in Los Angeles, which neighbors deserts, we drivers knew that you had to have some plans and provisions for driving through them. Getting stuck on the side of a desert road because you've run out of gas or have had engine problems, or most commonly your car has overheated, it was a very reasonable fear to have. No cell phones at this time, and nowadays, even if you had them out there, they might not work. Seasoned Southern Californians driving through the desert knew to, for example, and I had this in my car, keep something to draw a big X with on the hood or in the sand so that an aircraft can spot you. And that is on every national desert park kind of listing to have. And to never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, walk through the desert. Always keep to the main road, they say. No matter the small lights you might see in the distance, never go off the main road. The desert scared me when I was young, and it certainly didn't help that the closest desert to me was called Death Valley. Main road through, I think, is like Badwater Road. But it's an apt name, Death Valley. Wilderness theologian Belden Lane says that the desert is preeminently a place to die. Jesus goes into that desert at that precise moment in his ministry, looking for just this, a kind of death. As in all of literature, sacred texts like the Bible, it isn't supposed to be taken literally. The desert represents the place where we go to psychically die, some part of us that it's time to let go of or face honestly. One need not go to the Sahara to know about these desert places that we have within, where our breath feels as though it has been lost, where we know ourselves to be parched, and the desert places offer an invitation to discover maybe what it is we thirst for, so that a new breath can begin. And now, most often we resist pilgrimages like this, and we're being invited to them every day. We fight with tooth and nail because it's a terrifying prospect. Am I right? Crumbling, falling apart, letting go, letting things die in us, in our lives. So hard. Pema Chodron tells us in her book, When Things Fall Apart, fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. It's not a terrible thing that we feel fear when faced with the unknown. It is part of being alive, she says, something we all share. We react against the possibility of loneliness, of death, or of not having anything to hold on to. But if we can commit ourselves to staying right where we are, then our experience becomes very vivid. Things become very clear when there is nowhere to escape. And all of this, she says, takes the courage to die continually. Now, our personal demons, anything that makes us so uncomfortable that we continually want to run away from them or blot them out with all the distractions that we have, shame and rage and blame and fear of losing things and losing control, they have most of us so terrified of sitting still or trusting, as in Parker Palmer's words about wholeness, trusting that there might be something waiting to appear to us that might get us to wholeness. We're so good at shouting and crashing about, aren't we? I know I am. And this pattern, it brings about suffering, great suffering. And we can see it in the world and our fellows. Time to go into the desert and get honest about some of this. And we are on that path as spiritual peoples here in this place. What makes this Jesus guy so provocative, so timely, so stunning, is that he knew that he had to live his message and movement. He also did not preach from on high. And that meant showing us that no one is above or outside the journey towards wholeness or healing or brokenness. He was called by the Spirit to go into the desert to honestly face himself. It would have been far easier to wander around with a puffed up ego, healer of all. Instead, he goes to the desert. to reckon with his own shadowed, cracked earth, parched places, the inner demons, temptations, they are called in the Bible. His ego, notions of power, doubt in God, mistrust of others. He did this so that he might let go, find a new breath, and ultimately he emerged reordered in his call and faith, clear, grounded. Out of groundlessness, the invitation to groundedness. Now, before the Bible was written down, the ancients called this mystic kind of experience alchemy. Maybe you have heard that word before, where only out of the muck and slop and dirt and disorder can gold, reorder, new order, gold be found and forged. And I lament consistently, my friends, that it has to happen this way. I often feel like I'm a kid just wanting to have a tantrum about this in my life. And I have found in my limited time on this earth that things must, often must fall apart in my life so that I might glimpse a deeper truth about myself and the life I'm living and love. And I have to tell you, I have always been met by God, higher power, love, sometimes showing up in the hands of a friend, always been met by those unexpected graces on the dirt floor basement of my soul. Maybe you know about that too. Our theme this month is trust, as Alyssa said. And that's what searching for meaning in this season of Lent takes. In yourselves. Trust in yourselves. Trust in spirit in whatever way you name that. Trust in one another. Now, some of our Christian siblings choose to let go of something that maybe keeps them from the deeper truths within or keeps them feeling away from God, Spirit, love. Maybe that speaks to you. Many Unitarian-Universalists I know make it a practice during Lent of every day looking for unexpected graces in the muck so that they might be transformed by them in some way. Others might contemplate the desert by going there literally or meditating on images of desert landscapes, asking themselves, what is cracked and parched and harsh, dry in me? How might I release some of this so that I might more efficiently, effectively, authentically, with groundedness, be the movement. Do you hear that? Dry and dry and dry in each direction, says Jan Richardson. Dust dry, desert dry, bone dry, and here in your own heart dry, the center of your chest, a bare valley stretching out everywhere you turn. You may need to do some crumbling. Yes. Some things you have protected may want to be laid bare. Yes. Yes. That you will be asked to let go and let go and let go. Yes. But listen, this is what a desert is for. If you have come here desolate, if you have come here deflated, then thank your lucky stars. The desert is where you have landed, here where it is hard to hide. Oh, God, let us stop hiding. Here where it is unwise to rely on merely our own devices. Oh God, we are not alone. Here where you will have to look and look again and look close to find what refreshment waits. It is here, it is there, it is not lost, my friends, waiting to reveal itself to you, to us. I tell you, though it may be hard to see it now, this is where our greatest blessing will find us. I tell you, this is where you will receive your life again. I tell you, this is where the breath begins. This is where the breath begins. And isn't this our prayer for the world? That they may find their breath, their heart again. Begin here, my friends. And we are going to now sing a hymn about a river, but before you go get your hymnals, hold on. This has such a special meaning to this particular church, because as I have said, we are river people, and the people who were here before us were river people. We worship on the river, and we come home to one another across the deserts of our lives, coming here to this place with deserts in our bodies right now, to this river place, where God, Spirit, love each other, where we quench our thirst every time. How blessed are we?